fear me. They sometimes don't cooperate, but it never lasts very long. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Good to see you.
Yeah, if you and I were driving the Millennium Falcon, I'd be Chewbacca in there punching the hyperdrive to get it to fly.
There you go. Well, exciting show tonight. We've got a lot of great information to share with the audience.
It's been said before, John. Whoops. I think you got your audio feeding back. That's very long. How are you? You got it?
It should be dead.
Yeah, you got it.
I apologize.
No,
so,
okay.
Yeah, exciting show. It's becoming more and more apparent that there was a lot going on before Donald Trump came into office. And so we're going to explore some of the history here. And it's not that ancient history, but it may have been influenced by some older history from 100 years ago. And so we're going to explore that tonight. It seems that before Donald Trump was elected president, before he came into office, looks like Barack Obama had a lot going on in the biowarfare category. And so we're going to explore that a little bit and see, because remember, Donald Trump was only president for 4 years. Barack Obama was president for 8 years, right? And before he was president, he was a senator. And we've talked about on the show this trip that Barack Obama and Dick Lugar made to Ukraine. And they made this trip in 2005 when Barack Obama was a senator. And Dick Lugar and Barack Obama fly to Ukraine. And on the way to Ukraine, they stop in Russia. I don't know where, Novosibirsk or something like that. There's like a stopover place. And their plane gets boarded by the Russians.
They're detained for hours. We still don't know why.
Right. So this is like a big thing, you'd think. 2 senators are detained by the Russians at a Russian airport where the plane is stopping to refuel or something like that. It's like, wow, that's a pretty big deal. That's like State Department stuff.
They weren't even smoking weed or playing basketball. It's bizarre.
That we're aware of, but where was Diddy? Where was
exactly.
Diddy?
That's still a good question.
On the plane?
Yes.
Was Diddy on the plane? So let's not dismiss that so quick. We don't know what was going on in the air. But the net of this is they get detained, but they're on their way to Ukraine. And we're going to listen to a clip. In fact, I only want you to play maybe 1 sentence or 2 sentences, because this is really the foundation of the show tonight. When we go to the patron-only portion, we'll listen to the whole conversation, or not the whole thing, but we'll listen to a maybe 4-minute piece of it. But this is Barack Obama in 2014. This is 10 years ago. And he's talking about some stuff that's in the news right now. And so we might want to listen to what he says. There's a little video clip I sent you called "What Did Obama Say?" And I only really want you to play maybe 1 or 2 sentences from him, and then let's cut it. So let's let the audience just hear 1 or 2 things he has to say here.
Hang on, we got to get the audio going on this joker here. Where is it?
Where's your audio?
Audio. It's interesting. No audio on Obama. So we had some problem getting this video over here, and now we have no audio.
All right, don't worry about the audio then. The net of this is we'll play this with the patrons. You'll get a couple minutes to fix in between the shows. But he's talking about Ukraine. He's talking about funding special projects and that we need to invest in the future and pandemics and all this stuff. And recently in the news, we've had quite a bit of stuff about pandemics the last couple years. And in the last couple of weeks, it's like there's this whole new thing going on. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is sort of his role in this whole whatever you guys want to call it, biowarfare, U.S. AMRID, Fort Detrick, all that kind of stuff. And what was his role? What was he doing? What was he talking about? What was he doing in Ukraine? Is there a connection to those biolabs and Black and Veatch and that kind of stuff? So we're going to be looking at that in tonight's show. And then when we go to the patron-only portion of the show, we're going to be looking at What was the pandemic that was underway when Barack Obama was president? What was that one? And how many did he have?
How on earth does the damn video not play? This is the most problematic video I've seen. Hey, there's just one more second here. I don't understand what the hell is going on with this friggin' video.
Uh-oh. Again, you don't have to play that for the show. We can play that for the patrons, and it'll be okay. The patrons will get to see the whole thing. But why don't we hop over to the deck? Show everybody the PDF stuff. I got a lot of content to show them in the deck, so let's do that.
You got no sound on this video. I don't know what the hell.
We'll figure it out. Right, so right now I'm working on the book. Working title is "I'd Skip the Chicken." This is sort of the running joke is, when one president takes over from another president, they leave a note in the drawer of Resolute. Resolute is the name of the desk in the Oval Office, and
Order
so the president. I don't know about that part, but they leave a note. Each president leaves like a handwritten note for the next president. And so the running joke that I've been talking about the last week is that when Barack Obama left a note in the drawer for Trump, the note said, "I'd skip the chicken."
Yeah. We have a question for you coming from the comments. People want to know if Shepard Ambellis has cloned G. Gordon Liddy. Can you address that?
I'm afraid I cannot. Why, is that me? Am I G?
Yes. You look a little bit.
Well, it's funny because that's why I put this next slide in here, is because somebody sent me a note and said, was last week's reveal, was that an illusion?
What do you mean?
Was that not really you? So the guy without the glasses and the hat, was this a way to kind of switch characters and get one guy out of the scene and get a new guy in the scene? Like, did I just pull a Joe Biden kind of thing? Ha, ha, ha.
Right. Now we're in the Shepard category. That's what I'm talking about.
And the answer is
a clone.
So you've got the two pictures of me side by side here, and no, it's me. This is me.
Actually, you.
It's
funny because other people were saying that it doesn't. It's just you without the hat and the glasses, and they don't think it looks that different. But it actually does. I mean,
Oh, people were saying I never would have thought that's what you looked like. I could have been standing next to you at CVS. Never would have known that was you. So it's pretty
interesting.
Funny. Yeah. All right. So let's hop ahead because there's a lot going on that plays into this history with Barack Obama. And what we've been seeing in the news the last week or two has to do with bird flu. And they're talking about bird flu going into the cattle and from the chickens and we've been talking about poultry litter and how they're grinding up poultry bedding and, dead
sounds
pullets.
Delicious.
Oh, it's horrifying. And they're feeding this to the cattle, and that it's allowed in America, but other countries don't allow this. So other countries have said, we don't really do that here.
That can't be healthy for the cows. I mean, it's a valid question. Or even without the bird flu, you're talking about chicken feces. You can't. That's not.
Again, I don't know that anybody's arguing the other side of it, except for the guys who are selling poultry litter. I think the poultry litter sellers are saying, this is good for your cows. All right. But it's been a big topic, right? So we're seeing a whole lot of stuff going on with this whole avian flu stuff in the last couple of weeks. And this next slide that you have, it says Doc warns we're making the same mistakes as 2020 with bird flu.
Boy.
All right. Well, this is Jerome Adams. He was the Surgeon General. Right, he's the good-looking guy. Used to be Surgeon General of the country, and he blocks me. Right, he blocks me. Yeah,
why?
We were engaged in a little back and forth about how many people were dead in Shanghai or Hong Kong, and what was the number one comorbidity, and he didn't really like me.
Wow.
Yeah, like that.
People should follow you on Twitter if they aren't already at @I_am_John Cullen, and also me, Cartoon Me.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm blocked until 9:00 tonight.
Are you? You a bad boy?
Yeah. Well,
I try not to say anything that's going to be in too much trouble. All right. So a lot of stuff on Twitter about bird flu.
Boeing flu. What?
Well, yeah, that poor guy. It's a sad story. I don't want to get too far off track with that, but we've seen a lot of stuff on this. So if you go back to the decade and go, bird flu. Now, what we just so Jerome Adams is saying, I'm afraid we're making the same mistakes, and so he's weighing in, and Michael Warby is posting on this, and Rick Bright is posted. Like all the big names in virology are, talking about the bird flu. And if you go to this next slide, we hear, I think this just came out today or yesterday or today. The bird flu virus that's circulating in the cattle may have been circulating for 4 months before we realized it.
Oh boy.
So in other words, it's been going on longer than we think. In other words, it's been going on longer than we think. Well, the next slide takes us back to Time magazine in 2005, 19 years ago. Avian flu. Right?
What did Mark Twain act like this never happened, right?
Right. So Mark Twain said history, right, may not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. So we saw this in 2005, avian flu. And what we know is that the Pentagon was monitoring avian flu in China. This is not a mystery. This isn't. So this is, again, this is the difference between 10 years ago, 8 years ago, you had Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. And Julian Assange, kind of known as a kind of like a hacker coder guy, right? And Edward Snowden working as a contractor, but for the NSA, at Booz Allen, but for the NSA.
Yeah.
So when these are guys who are inside systems and going in and passwords and all that crap, we're using open source intelligence.
Right.
We're not hacking anything. And that's a bigger threat.
No security clearance to take away.
It's like we're just going to the library. We go to the library.
Just reading stuff.
That's it. And the guys in Fort Meade are basically saying that to the bosses and saying, well, what are we supposed? We can't kill these guys because they go to the library. It's like, what are we going to do with this? They've never really had to battle this type of, counterintelligence stuff that was open source before.
Yeah.
Right? So with Snowden, they revoke his passport. With Julian Assange, they carry him out like an animal.
You're raising an excellent point, because when we started talking about open source intelligence on Crowdsource the Truth, that's when Robert David Steele began his campaign of destruction that's now been handed off to the stupid Mario brothers.
Because of what a threat it represents. And if you look at the results, you look at our reporting, you look at the stories we're bringing out.
Right.
They have every reason to be concerned if they're trying to cover these things up. So it makes sense. It makes sense. So what we see here is, this is not a theory. We know there was an H7N9 outbreak in China. I mean, bird flu outbreak in China. But it wasn't H5N1. It wasn't H5N1. It was H7N9. And it starts in 2013, and then in 2014, just a year later, Dr. Fauci funds Kawaoka to do gain of function on the same virus that we just saw on the slide before. So if you go back up to that Pentagon slide, the virus they're monitoring in China with the outbreak in the chickens is the same virus Fauci funds the gain of function on.
I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Okay, so he funds the gain of function on this virus the next year. So in other words, the outbreak begins in 2013 in China. So when Donald Trump says the China virus, which one's he talking about? China. So it starts in 2013 in China. And in 2014, Barack Obama starts lobbying for all this money to fund all this and to get ahead of that. And that's what we're going to listen to when we figure out how to get the audio and the videos working together. We're going to listen to that with the patrons. So for the patrons, when you guys join us in the patron only hour of the show, we might be 3 minutes late as we get the audio. So bear with us if we don't start exactly at the top.
The engineering department?
Well,
now?
I'm just
worry about
I'm
that.
buying you some.
You pull the broken videos, I'll make them work.
Oh yeah, I'm buying you a couple minutes. All right. So what we see here in Kaylee's hand, this Kaylee McEnany, She comes on board. She joins the team in April of 2020. April of 2020. Okay, so the coronavirus pandemic is underway, right? I mean, we're in the national emergency.
I forgot that detail. Who was
All right.
before her? Mike Huckabee's daughter, right?
That
Sean
miserable
Spicer.
Sean Spicer,
Yeah,
and
he's a
that
nice guy.
miserable.
But
No.
then
The miserable woman that used to work for Melania. Melania's assistant was the press secretary for a couple of weeks there, and she was nasty.
Really?
Oh yeah, she was nasty. And then they brought in Princess Kaylee, and she charms America. But when you look at what's in Kaylee's hands, it's all about Crimson Contagion. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's like, well, it's April 2020. You guys supposedly wrapped up the Crimson Contagion thing back in August. The hell are you walking around with a bunch of Crimson Contagion stuff in your hands? So who was it? It right before
it says Sean Spicer. Here's Sarah Sanders. That was Stephanie Grisham.
That's it. That she was Melania's assistant or something, and she was nasty.
Well, you got every Trump person testifying now. Hope Hicks is down there.
Yeah.
It's like just they're all turning. I don't know what she really said today. I kind of blocked that out a little bit because it's such lawfare nonsense.
All right, let's go back to Kaylee. So Kaylee's on the lawn with the president, and she's showing everybody Crimson Contagion stuff in her hands.
Yeah.
So she's got Crimson. Nothing says COVID. Nothing says SARS-CoV-2 anywhere. Doesn't say SARS-CoV-2. Nothing. Crimson Contagion. And she's with Azar. Azar. So if the picture with the president, that's Azar to her side. He's the head of HHS. That's like Fauci's boss on the right. Yeah. He's Fauci's boss. That's the head of HHS. So the three of them are like coming in on the helicopter from somewhere. She's got Crimson Contagion stuff in her hands, which is bird flu. And it's bird flu in China. In fact, it's H7N9 in China, just like the Pentagon stuff we just looked at 2 seconds ago. So it seems like this is top of mind for Kaylee and Azar and the president. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, there's no binder that says COVID-19 strategic plan of that we don't have one of those in her arms. So everything is Crimson Contagion, and none of the word SARS-CoV-2 or COVID, it's not on. There's nothing there about that.
And also Crimson, is that referring to Red China?
Yeah.
The China virus. Interesting.
China virus. All right. So all
functional
this stuff, right?
Exercise. What is AAR? Oh, action report. Something.
Yes.
After action report.
After action report, right? And then if you go to the next slide, this is in the press room. She holds them up. Now we're going to listen to this press briefing. So we have the video from this press briefing where she basically says, look, the Obama administration put together a crisis plan for pandemics, and it was terrible. So we made up our own. And she holds these up. All right, now it's not exactly, it's like she's a very good magician, because what she's holding up is not really what she says it is. So it's very nicely done, Kaylee. Now, the issue here is all this stuff is going on. Bird flu. And then if you go to the next slide, so in other words, like Jerome Adams is telling everybody, hey, this H5N1, it's in the news. You better be careful. Go to the next slide here. Yeah, look at that. What is that? Wait. It says, well, we know about the deadliest bird flu outbreak in history in 2021 and 2022. I thought we were going through COVID in 2021, 2022. How did we have the deadliest avian influenza outbreak? Where was Jerome Adams then? Why weren't we testing the cows in 2021? Did we have a vaccine in 2021? Why was there no talk about that? So in other words, this is like top of the news right now with the cows and the milk and the cats and the walruses, and animals are dying in Antarctica, and everybody's talking about bird flu. We just had the worst bird flu outbreak in the history of mankind 2 years ago in the midst of the COVID outbreak, and everybody seems to have missed this.
But if you talk about it now, is it a conspiracy theory?
This silences the room
Yeah, it's weird.
more than me walking in with one of those latex masks on. So when you bring this evidence to the table, so in other words, like Rick Bright, Mike Warby, all these big shot names in the virology world are posting about H5N1, and the cattle. And I will respond with one of these articles and say, how is this outbreak different than this last thing that was the worst ever in the history of mankind? Is this one different? Is it the same? Same strain, different strain? No answer. Isn't that kind of a simple question? How is this the same or different from 2 years ago? How
You'd think
controversial?
they'd want to get to the bottom of it.
You'd think. How controversial a question is that?
I don't know.
We're having an H5N1 outbreak now. It's in the cattle, it's in the chicken. I hear the kitty cats are dying. How is this strain different or the same as what we went through with what you're showing the audience now? It says both Europe is on the right side. It says Europe had the worst avian outbreak in the history of Europe. And the left side,
they're waiting for the election to
America.
make everybody freak out about this.
But it happened already. In other words, this already took place.
But they're starting to say that it's coming back, so they're going to wait until they can, get maximum freak out and force everybody to have to vote.
Okay, so it's back, but all the hullabaloo that they're making now, why didn't they make it that? Like, in other words, why didn't we have an H5N1 vaccine 2 years ago? If it was the worst ever, right? That if it was the worst ever, that means that now can't be worse yet than that was, right? That was the worst ever. We're not yet at the point where they're saying, wow.
Well, they'd have a new article about the worst ever. If there was a new worst ever.
Exactly. That this outbreak is now the worst ever, right? We haven't seen that yet. So it's not yet, meaning, shouldn't we be, there's a thing in the business world called lessons learned, right? It's the difference.
The regular world has that also.
Yeah, newbies and wisdom, right? The difference between somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and somebody who knows what they're doing is lessons learned. So were there lessons learned from this last avian flu outbreak that we should be talking about now? Did we use any therapeutics? Did it not go into humans and only stayed in chickens? Can we have an adult conversation about it? Nobody seems to want to do that. I don't know why. All right, let's roll ahead. Next slide.
Well, we're almost out of time here, John. We're going to have to continue much of this in the sponsor-exclusive segment. I want to make sure people know they can sponsor you on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and it's really super important to do that. We had a great special episode last week of the documentary Going to Thailand, tied in with you revealing your face and losing the costume and everything. So if people haven't seen that yet, check out subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We're going to have another special sponsor exclusive episode in just about 5 minutes, and then also on Sunday. So if people aren't sponsoring either of these shows yet, I really encourage them to do that. You want to just take us out here in the last moment before we switch over?
What we're going to see with the patrons, we're going to be looking at what was Obama positioning for 5 years prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. And we're going to play those videos. You're going to get to hear Kayleigh McEnany in the press room. I think this is coming together. And it's something that was basically handed to President Trump on his first day in the office. First day. Congratulations, Mr. President. Welcome to the White House. We're going to need to brief you on the chicken situation in China. And he's going, what? Chicken situation in China? What the hell are you talking about? Oh, wait till you hear this one, sir. This is a doozy. So stay tuned. We'll be with our patrons and taking a close look at this.
We'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us. and we're going to get this show going in just about 5 minutes. Thanks for